Right, so Alien Romulus.
Sure.
Unfortunately, I did not get around to seeing it, so allow me to do just a quick preamble, right? Quickish.
Yeah.
So we've talked about the Alien franchise before on this show. We actually recapped, like just talked about all the movies leading up to Alien Covenant, which we had talked about when it dropped back in 2017, right? And if you'll remember, that was the last Alien film that we got. It was also from Ridley Scott, who also did Prometheus, which was a show back then that I defended because I kind of liked how he incorporated bits of existentialism into the whole Alien franchise. But ultimately, it was just kind of an excuse to say, yeah, we really don't know what to do with this franchise, you know. And for me, I really saw that with Covenant, but that was a show that honestly I never got around to recapping. Because it just felt like we were doing the same shit over again. It was, in other words, his characters going down dark, corners by themselves when they know it have some xenomorph running around killing people. I'm like, I think I remember us making this joke when I first saw it. So you're telling me in the future, whatever year it was, people like people never watch horror movies or something like that, so you don't know. Oh, you're not supposed to go there by yourself. Like, you had to go with company.
Look, I get it. I get it in the sense that it's supposed to be a prequel, so all of these characters don't know what xenomorphs are.
Yeah.
Like, I get that, right? So it's like they're playing it from that perspective, but like, it's still dumb. Like, bro, it has like
people
normal
really
science.
doing dumb shit, Joe. Like, why?
Yeah, normal science thing. Like, Prometheus was particularly bad with this, right? But it's normal science thing. It's like, bro, put on your helmet now. We take off your helmet.
Oh, yes, you're right.
Simple thing like that. It's like, bro, what are you doing? Go ahead.
Yeah, you're right. So and then when I came out, I was like, all right, well, I guess that's pretty much it. I mean, no disrespect to Ridley Scott. I mean, if it was a film, we would not have gotten the masterpiece that was the first Alien. But I don't know, like, and this is coming from somebody who actually owns the box set, right? Because if you're into home media collection, it's one of them box sets that you kind of have to own, right? That's the one with the first 4 Alien movies, right? So that's Alien, of course, from Ridley Scott, Aliens, which is a fantastic sequel from the great James Cameron, Alien 3, which almost caused David Fincher to give up on filmmaking.
Very flawed movie, but a great interesting vision. It's a shame that the studio was such shitheads on that whole thing.
Yeah, boy. And Alien Resurrection, which the less I remember also from it, the better, right? But yeah, it's one of those things that you kind of own, you know what I mean? Because, it's a brag and boast about it, right? But I say all this to say that I am, even though I do own this, right, and I do love the first 2 movies, I think, they stand head and shoulders over anything else that we've gotten in the franchise, even right down to AVP, and especially that god-awful sequel. Yeah, I'm not the biggest fan of the Alien franchise. Like, I understand their place as far as sci-fi horror goes, but I would not, like, put... Well, the exception of the first 2 movies, I would not put the franchise as a whole on this pedestal, right? I'm saying all this now because as this movie dropped, right, it's unfortunate that I didn't get to see it theatrically because I could have, understood where people was coming from. Yeah, boy. Social media could not shut the fuck up about this movie, boy. From every time I go on Facebook right now, right? I'll just wrap it up, right? It's just a bunch of ranking the Alien movies from worst to best, and where does Alien Romulus fit? And then I hearing about a cameo, and I speculating what the cameo is. But the more I think about it, the more I realize, that makes no sense, shit. How? But I don't know what it is. But I feel when I see it, I go real custard. No,
it's a cameo that makes some sense, but it's still pointless. It's still dumb, and it didn't need to do it.
Okay, yeah. But no lie though, even though I like the real reason why I wanted to see Romulus theatrically in particular is because it's from Fede Álvarez, right? Who is a filmmaker that I've been really digging, right? Especially with his fantastic, using that word fantastic, reboot of Evil Dead, right? Back in 2013, right? I mean, like, and of course, there was Don't Breed from 2016, which is pretty solid.
Right, which I like. I like the first Don't Breed, yeah.
Yeah, the second one, but the first one,
forgettable.
Yeah, so like when it comes to just visceral horror films, this guy knows his shit, right? So yeah, it makes perfect sense for him to be in the Alien franchise, right? Because I mean, no disrespect to Ridley, but it just felt like Ridley Scott didn't really know where to take this material, right? But I felt like, Fede was the right guy to breathe new life into the franchise, right? And, what I was expecting from it was at least we were going to get back to that really, griminess, be that dark, bloody shit that we got in the first movie, right? That was what I was expecting with this. But I hear some things about this show, but but anyway. But yeah, Ricardo, you saw it, but before we begin, you just have anything to say about the franchise as a whole before you move into this movie?
I mean, I like the franchise, all things considered. Overall, it's a decent enough, interesting universe. It's implied, or at least really implies that it crosses over with other sci-fi universes, but it's more like Easter egg stuff rather than actual like continuity, necessarily canonical stuff. So it's implied that it could be Blade Runner universe also, probably. I'm not sure. Stuff like that. That stuff kind of interesting. But the first two movies are classics, right? For different reasons. One really works as a great horror in space. People dismiss it as a slasher in space, but that's what it was, and it works. But just good world building, just a little simple. The whole, for lack of I forget what it's called, the concept, but cassette futurism. That whole stuff that is the 80s, but still a futuristic technology, so all the monitors and all that stuff, and that set design really, really worked for the time, and they do it in that conceit really, really well. And then the second film is just an action masterpiece, full stop, right? Third film, very flawed, different ideas, undermined by the studio, unfortunately, is a shame. But they could have I felt they could have done more with this. Then we do the fourth film, which I think doesn't work at all, is have a couple of interesting ideas and moments in terms of action, and well, it had some really interesting like cutting special effects stuff. Then with the stuff comes back, and even though he does something different with it, I don't think either of those films work. Right? I really don't care for Prometheus. In fact, I put Prometheus as one of the worst films of the decade, last decade, in my opinion. Mostly because not an objectively worst film, but mostly because of how much of a disappointment it was. And then Covenant just fall flat for me as well. Again, a couple of interesting ideas and moments. That guy, what's his name? Forget the actor, Michael something, as David. Pretty good.
Fassbender. Yeah.
Fassbender, thank you. Right, Michael Fassbender as David. Pretty good character. But then they went on this carry things too far with him, and they overdo it. But then we have a little. Well, I'll get into this now. We have another thing that comes in that to me is one of the best additions to the franchise that came out around 10 years ago. Alien Isolation. Great game. Right, amazing game. Basically, you're running from the alien the whole game, and it really works. And that's how I feel about the franchise. I don't super love it. It's a franchise I acknowledge as very influential, but itself I also don't super love it. It's just first two films are great, and I understand, I acknowledge its influence. But overall, I am not like a super fan of the franchise to keep thinking about it or anything like that. I actually was more interested in when they do the crossover with the Predator stuff. To me, that is actually more interesting ultimately. I wish we get more Alien versus Predator stuff. It's just, they just keep fucking up those movies too. So it's like, whatever. I heard that Fede Álvarez wants to do a crossover with Trachtenberg, who did Pre. Was he director Pre again?
It was that guy. I forgot the first name right now, but yeah. That would be great too. Like a retro Predator story, but you bring in the aliens as well, which EVP could have been, but I think if I'm not mistaken, that and the sequel was set in contemporary times, I think, or in the near future.
Right. It was 2002. I forget what it was. Yeah, but it's about that. So that's it. I don't super love the franchise, but I like the franchise enough to say yes, I appreciate it for what it's trying to do and say, and so on and so forth. Cool. And for this movie, it starts off great. So so this is about 20 years after the events of the first film, and about, well, to mention Alien Isolation, about 5 years after that game, which was about 15 years after the first film, right? And so it focuses on this planet where it's just this crappy mining planet where this girl, Rain, she's this orphan. Her parents died, but she also has a quote-unquote adoptive brother named Andy. And what you find out very early on is that Andy is a synthetic human. He's a synthezoid who is played by my boy David Johnson from Rylane, if you remember that. That was one of my favorite movies.
Okay. And I know he was in that. Right.
Yeah. He's pretty good in this. He's actually the standout. All the androids is always be good in these, right? So So she basically, it's this android who's like effectively, the way all the characters is framed is like a kind of mentally disabled, because what they do is that they found it damaged the explanation is they found the damage, and the guy gave it only like one like program just to protect the girl at all costs, kind of thing. Right? So you don't really think too well. He's, again, it's like having a severely disabled brother or something like that. And yeah, that is basically it. So it starts like that. She goes and she finds out she basically is indentured servitude by the Whale and Italy Corporation, and because they have a shortage of workers, she thought she pay off her thing, and they just double her debt, and she couldn't get out. And so she gonna get mad at that. But what they find out is that she meets a bunch of her friends with her ex-boyfriend and a bunch of younger people who kind of stuck in working indefinitely in this mine colony and just killing off their parents. What you find out is that it's a ship above in orbit that has a bunch of like cryopods, and they basically could get that planet that'll be basically outside of Whale and Yutane's control. And yeah, it seemed to be a nice planet apparently, so they want to go there. Cool. And they go up there, and then they find out it's not a ship, it's like a space station. And it's this weird derelict space station, but you find out it's a space station split into two parts called Romulus and Remus. Well, hence the titular name of the show. And that's where shit hit the fan, right? So they go up. The purpose of going up and taking the Centoid, or taking Andy, the synthetic human, is that he has the ability to immediately like access the systems because he's a Centoid. You can just stick his finger in the door relatively quickly because he's Whale and Yutani property, and that'll have him access to everything, so they could just relatively go in and then steal the cryopods and then go in. When they get to the cryopods, however, and this is where up to that point, it is where spoilers will get into. They find out it have no enough like freeze, like whatever it is to use the chemical to use to freeze to maintain the cryopods for 9 years. They only had like 3 years worth, but they could have go to another part of the ship that has the freezing thing, but unfortunately you find out it's freezing something else, and that stuff thaws out, and that's when shit really hit the fan. The first 30 minutes of this was amazing, pretty good, and everything else was a very expensive fan film, which I hated.
Wow.
Right? I kind of hated that, and it kind of pissed me off. And well, yeah, they do a cameo. I don't want to spoil who it is. But that cameo, it's not that it don't make sense. It makes some sense, but it was totally unnecessary. Like, get another actor. You don't need to do this shit. And they did the thing, basically, if I say this, it'll spoil it, though. But it basically is one of the big cinematic sins for me right now. If you do this nowadays, I kind of have to say, fuck you. And
okay, I know. All right. No,
you probably know what
you're talking about. I know it is, but
right.
Yeah, I'll promote.
They do that. And yeah, so it's just a bunch of like really, really good cameos. I think the story isn't half bad. It's the real sell of it is the set design and production design. You know, they really get a guy. They go back and get a guy in a suit. They don't rely on CG as much, except for the thing that they did that had CG, and they didn't need to fucking do, but whatever. And then, but they have a lot of great set design, great set pieces. They set up a lot of stuff good. The characters are nobodies, which I like because it justifies why, you know, I don't know any of these actors except for I only know David Johnson. I'm like, hey, I'm a boy from Rylene. That's it. Everybody else are relative. And I think I know Eileen Wu, right? Everybody else I didn't know. This girl, the main star, she was in this thing recently. Super Minor. She was in something the other day.
Should I look it up? Without trying to see what the spoiler is?
Rim and something else.
Hold on, Kaylee Spiney. Where's she from again?
Right, no, she was in Civil War. You just watched Civil War.
Right, yes. She was
in that, right? Yeah. Same girl, right? Same.
Yeah, the character you didn't like, right? Because she did because she did some dumb shit, right? Yes,
some dumb shit, right? Right. Yeah, so she it's other than so, but I don't know any of these people mostly, right? They feel like relative newcomers. That works. Like this sell the conceit. The problem is that it leans way too much into like justifying why you have to reference something from an old film, and it really does the fan service stuff.
Okay.
Here's the thing, it's not as obnoxious and ingratiating as before, but it felt like in some ways worse and insulting the intelligence even more. And how I feel about it, my last point is that, you know, this could have worked if it was a video game, right? If this was a sequel to Isolation, people would have been singing its praises, loving it, singing its praises, because that kind of reverence and performativity, that kind of cinematic reverence and performativity towards the old movies would sell better in a video game. But as a film, like regardless how you feel about Ridley Scott's new stuff, he was actually trying new ideas, right? But this now is just it's just a fan film. Like, sorry, it's a very expensive fan film. It's well made, like in terms of it looks great. You know, a lot of great shots in this, stuff like that. But it's still a fan film. Sorry, it just feels too much like a fan film. If this was a game, I would be like, if it was a nice sequel, because the game Alien Isolation is like 15 years after the first one. This one is 20 years, 5 years after that. So like, yeah, this would have been like a perfect game, and all these set pieces set up in such a way where it could make for a game, just like a nice, I don't know, 15-hour, 20-hour game or something like that. Easy. Same set pieces, play it out and frame it out like that. You could tell the story in the same way. People would be jumping hell over heels here. I see 80, 99% on, or whatever it is on Metacritic or whatever. But as it is, I was like, well, it's not a great though. Like I could see people liking this movie, right? I enjoyed it for what it was, but like this just, I don't know why they decided to like do it like this and cater to the old material in this way and in the dumbest way. And it have a couple of moments where, holy shit, it kind of pissed me off for how much you try to insult my intelligence with it, because they try to frame it in the world part. So there's a line that a character says as a straight up callback to Aliens 2, but because it's supposed to be before Aliens 2, it's not a thing. They kind of try to weave it in the most clumsy way to have the character say this line, and it's so dumb. The big standout is David Johnson, though. He is great. He does, because a big plot reason he has to go from, well, effectively acting like a mentally disabled person to being really, really smart and brilliant and whatever it is for plot reasons. And the guy switches on a dime. He nails it as a robot. They do the typical robot things where you have to make like these terrible decisions and so on and so forth. He is the standout actor in this. He's great, right? I didn't think I would enjoy him so much. It's a shame that everybody else kind of boring and uninteresting. And because they waste so much time on fan service and schlock, they could have just spent more time on these characters and the characterization a little better. But they decided to just make they decided to make the last 2/3 of the movie just fan servicey, and it don't work for me at all. And look, I'm sure I might be in the minority for this, but it just kind of pissed me off a little bit. Rating, I want to say like a 7 out of 10, maybe like a real low 7, closer to a 6.
Oh wow! I thought you were gonna give it a 5, Jed.
No, nothing like that. Like it didn't completely insult my intelligence, but I really, really, really wish, we got something, more intelligent or smarter or more workable as a story. And it just kind of pissed me off a little bit that they decided to just take this direction for it, for what it was. Where's my closing points? I'm gonna say closing points.
I was gonna ask one question. I guess I could lead that into the closing statement. Is it just that the franchise just can't go any further?
No, but I see that's the sad part. Is that you can just tell a lot of like interesting stories. My problem is that you don't have to do the typical human thing. Right? You don't have to do the typical story. You don't have to tell back a similar story, because it kind of tries to tell back Alien 1. Because again, much like a structure 2, it kind of mashes together Aliens 1 and 2 now. So they say, okay, this part is Alien 1, but this part, when they go to the second station, that's Alien 2. Because they get a gun and they get time to shoot down a bunch of aliens, but they justify why. And it is, again, a very expensive fan film. And then the ending is an homage to, this is a mild spoiler, Alien 4. Because there's a specific thing in that that they do. And it's kind of like that. And it's like, okay, I get where you're going for because the plot says so. And it makes some sense. But at the same time, it's so clumsy, though. It just don't work and take. I don't know. As I said, if this was a video game, it could have worked, as a direct follow-up to Isolation or something. But that kind of references only work in other media. It doesn't work in film, right? In the film format, once you do that, it just feel like you're copying the thing. Like it's the Psycho thing all over again or some bullshit like that, right? But yeah, I think Andy and David Johnson as Andy is great. He reholds it, but it commits those two big sins and really pulls it down. If it wasn't for that one particular thing, the quote unquote cameo, it would have at least 2 more points extra, because it really was unnecessary, really unnecessary. But still, I still didn't hate it. It's still a decent time. Look, I had a couple stags with this one. I enjoyed it. 6 out of low 7, 6, high 6, 8, whatever.
Yeah,
you'll enjoy. I think you will enjoy. If you go and see it, you will enjoy it. I think you will. But yeah, they really, really, really like kind of slip up there and kind of fuck it up in that sense, and that kind of piss me off. You're so close. You know what? Just talk about M. Night doing that, right? Last week,
yeah.
M. Night had something going, and then he just and decide to fuck it up with that. And like, what are you doing? You didn't need to do this. Well.
Yeah, you seen I should still go and see it. I think I'll stay home and watch that shit, bro. Like just to be.
I mean, whatever. Now you can take it. I mean, I still think I think it worth your time. But whatever. You can do it.
Right. I got you.